What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another DFS Army Bold Calls season-long fantasy basketball podcast sponsored by DFSArmy.com, where you get bold calls for your season-long fantasy basketball draft. We're breaking down the top 24 picks for your with special bold calls for your season-long fantasy draft. We've already done the first 12, so today we're going to focus on picks 13 through 24 with some omissions at the end and some guys who could have been there. And welcoming back to the show, I've got the man himself, the season-long master, Long Sez. What's up, my brother?
What's up, man? Basketball season, prep season. I love it. You know how much of a freak I am about basketball, so much that other freaks get attracted together when we talk about hoops. And I think we found another hoops freak, and I'm very, very happy to have him sitting below us in the square.
I know that you're a freak, but the part about the basketball is news to me. So that's good to know. In addition, we've got my man, Mutt18, DFS Army NBA coach. He will be there with you in Slack for DFS Army subscribers this season, answering your questions, letting us know all the breaking news, putting out coaches' notes, all kinds of good stuff. What's up, Mutt?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely.
Not only are we having you, you're going to be with us for the duration of the season. So get comfortable in that seat.
We hope, depending on how this goes.
Yeah, if you screw up, you're out.
If you make a bad pick, one bold call doesn't work out.
That's it.
That's it.
Done.
That's fine.
No margin for error.
No, but part of the deal with the Bold Call season-long podcast, be them for football or basketball or any sport, is you're not going to get the same old generic bullshit, okay? If you got the same old generic bullshit from the Bold Calls podcast, a lot of you would have some shitty-ass players in your season-long fantasy football lineups that we avoided like the plague. And we're going to do the same for fantasy. If you want to draft Paul George in the top 12, this is not the podcast for you. This is the there. Does Matthew Berry do one of these for basketball? Go to that one.
Yep. You will not, by listening to us, you will not be drafting Kawhi Leonard at his current ADP in first round.
If you want to draft Kawhi Leonard in the first round of your draft, go find a different one that doesn't understand how the system, that doesn't know how to beat games. Our goal is to beat the game with bold calls. So part of that is we take a look at what ADP is doing. Where are people drafting these people? Where do we think you should draft them? And, situations like that will get you off of players that you should get off of. Now, before we get into the breakdown for the top 24, I was watching some preseason fantasy basketball, or was playing some DFS wise, and I get a thing that comes Anthony Davis, twisted his finger. He's going back to the locker room. I know he's all right, but it was a reminder. No, I know, but it was just a reminder of what you get with Anthony Davis farted and his butthole hurts. He's in the locker room.
I mean, we've said it before. He's like, every time Julio Jones in football gets tackled, you watch him sort of like creep up. You can't watch the game if you draft Anthony Davis.
It's Anthony. Well, you also shouldn't get the alerts, because it's like my every next alert on my phone about fantasy basketball news. And Mutt, you know about this. It's like Anthony Davis to the locker room. He bumped his head. Oh shit!
It's like every 3 games at least.
Wait, he's coming back out. Yes, he's coming back out. All right. So anywho, you're going to get the bold calls here. And before we get moving forward with picks 13 through 24, let's do a quick review of the first 12 picks. And Sez, why don't you take us through the first 12? And Mutt, if you see anything that seems pretty crazy on that first 12, let us know.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at expert consensus ADP, it's quite a little bit different here than what we have. We had Karl Anthony Towns as our 1-1. He was not he's in the top 3 consistently, but certainly not at 1-1. Position scarcity for us pushed him up there. Harden, Greek Freak, AD to round out the top 4. Curry started draft season out of the top 12. Now is firmly part of the Big 5. Any problem with that Big 5, Steve?
No, not for me. I mean, only thing I'd probably flip Curry and AD just based on the amount of usage he's going to be seeing this year.
Mhm.
And like you said, with AD and his injury history, I find it hard to draft him before Curry. I know Curry has ankle issues too, but they need him bad in Golden State if they want to stay
what's
as
funny?
good as they've been.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even blink if somebody took Curry at 1. It's not what I would do, but I wouldn't think anything more about it, right? So
the
we agree
ADP, just to be clear, the ADP for Curry remains. Let's see where he is. He's 5th overall at the moment. So, that's right where he's right. That's right where his ADP is.
Yeah,
I don't mind taking him higher either.
It's similar to in fantasy football when you had those 4 running backs at the top, and then it just kind of, whatever order you took them in, nobody really squinted. After that, the Joker, Russ, we moved up into the first round because we're talking points leagues, not categories here.
Yeah.
So that moves him up. I think he's in for a big year. LeBron is actually one of my guys possibly moving down, but he will go in the first round, and it's still LeBron. Bradley Beal, that was the one we received the most tweetbacks on. People didn't like him at pick 9 overall. They thought that was a little aggressive. Steve, talk about Bradley Beal and tell the fantasy community why. Forget about the name. Look at the numbers.
Yeah, he's with John Wall out. He's their whole offense, and he's going to play like 40 minutes a game. He was doing it at the end of last year. He was doing it all last year, like 40 plus minutes per game. And for season long, you're not going to find many guys that are doing that. It's not a sexy pick by any means, just because,
right.
Like you said, he is Bradley Beal, but he's stayed healthy, and he has huge games every now and then.
The only risk with him, Geek, is that he is a candidate to be traded at the deadline to a major contender. I could see some sort of situation where he ends up going to a place where there's other stars, and that could be a big buzzkill. It's not like, I wouldn't say it's likely, but I think Steve would agree it's in the range of outcomes for sure for Beal.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's a really, really tough thing to want to, put into your calculus when you're drafting. It's like, hey, what's gonna we can know for sure that Washington is going to be a bad team, right? So we know that, but are they going to trade Beal? If they do, it's a very bad situation for no matter what team he would be traded to. That is not a good scene for your fantasy team if that happens.
I mean, a team like the Washington Wizards, where you're the only game in town playing 40 minutes, you're young, you're athletic, you're healthy, is like the ideal situation. So we agree. I'm glad you agree on that. Embid, obviously, there's certain risks that come with him. We had him at 10. Dame, we have him a little lower than most, but I wouldn't blink if anyone took him in the top 7 or 8. And then we had Andre Drummond up there based on position scarcity. He's also a monster, starting to shoot a few 3-pointers, believe it or not. I mean, I don't know how many of those. The first couple he took in preseason didn't even hit the rim, but he is taking them, and that's what's important.
I wouldn't count too much on that. But a lot of these guys, it's interesting since the last podcast, even since last week, the way that ADPs have moved recently is fascinating because a lot of these players have kind of, even in the top 12, have shifted much closer to where these rankings are. Like Drummond is now showing an ADP of 13 according to Fantasy Pros, and so he's moving up that list.
We had him there first when he was ADP 18. I mean,
that's right. I mean, it's just been interesting just in the past week how much movement has happened on a lot of these guys, and I think there are going to be some bold calls in round 2 here.
Yeah, and what we need to do, we need to do this exercise for football. Steve, do you play fantasy football at all?
Yep.
Okay, so
I'm in the season long league too.
Cool. So we need to do this exercise for where we before the rankings and the ADP forms, we need to create our ranks like we did last year.
Yep.
And this way, you really, because ADP poisons your mind. Basketball season, the lead up is not as big as it is for football, so it's a little less interference, but more or less. You want us to get right into the second round, Geek?
Yeah, let's just jump right into it. So, we finished out the first round with Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond. And so we've got a couple centers in there. Where are you going with pick number 13 in your rankings? I'll start with you, Sez.
I mean, right off the bat, here's the man right there. We're going to go the Luka Doncic, man. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you have pick 12, you should take him on the turn. I mean, there's even a chance that he can go earlier than that. I would have no problem with it. If I'm picking 12th in a 12-team league. I'm my 12 and 13 guys. I'm taking them. Sorry, I'm the two guys I have ranked at 13 and 14. I'm taking them 12 and 13. Luka Doncic is just, I mean, he's already one of the best players in the NBA. So fun to watch. The passing skills, the shooting skills. He gets Kristaps Porzingis back in Dallas. I think that's only going to add to his game. I mean, who doesn't like this player, Steve?
I love him. If I'd even consider taking him in the first round, like towards the end, over maybe even like a Beal or something if he slips.
How about over a Dame Lillard?
Or is that a bridge too
you know
far?
What? It depends on if there's a good center there. If there's a good center, I'll probably grab the center there. But over Dame,
right.
It's close. That's tough. I don't know. That's.
Well, you know what the reason is? I think that what the reason Steve is shrugging at it, and you tell me if I'm wrong, is that Dame is proven, whereas Luka's a little more projection.
Yeah. Plus, Porzingis is going to take away some usage from him, but I think the Mavs are going to ease Porzingis back in the first few weeks, and he's going to be on some type of minutes restriction probably. So I think Luka is going to go bonkers at least the first couple weeks of this year.
Now, you know about the Luka to Porzingis connection, right? Should I do it now?
I mean, I've been waiting for it.
Yeah, bro.
So what? Wait, hold on a second. We actually hold on. 1 second. Hold on. I want to take. We have tape from the locker room that we're going to play for you now, everyone. So if you're watching on video, close your eyes. If you're listening on the audio cast, here I'm going to play the tape that we have from the Dallas Mavericks locker room.
Get it.
Go ahead. Go.
Hey Luka, last night we were crushing the bitches at the club. Today we crush basketball hoops on the floor. What do you say, my money brother? Okay. Yeah, very good stuff, my man.
Oh my God.
An average conversation between these two guys. Yo, bro, throw me the basketball. I crush it in hoop.
I mean, the comedy on this show is just unrelenting.
Yes. Unrelenting. Right, I had to do it. If you're going to talk Luka, I had to do it. I just want to point out that Luka Doncic is ranked 18th overall by ADP. So this is not a wisdom of the crowd move here. This is very much a grab him ahead of some other names that are going to be more popular. So you could probably still get Luka, not even end of the first round, but you probably a couple picks into that second round. If you're looking at the Yahoo ADP, if you're drafted on Yahoo, he's not going to be like hammering your league mate in their face like next man up. They're going to be getting, names like Kyrie Irving and Rudy Gobert and Paul George staring them and Kawhi Leonard staring them in the face.
But when there's a couple sharp players, like you hear what Steve just said. Steve's like, "Oh, I'm taking them in pick 10." You got if you want them, you got to take them in the first round, likely.
At least in the DFS Army League, you will.
Yeah, Yahoo, he's way too low. I don't know what that ADP is. So he's like I got him in like the end of the second round in one mock draft.
I will have Doncic and Porzingis on pretty much every team that I draft. Only for the accents.
Yeah, I mean, you got it. And he's a fun owner. Anyway, the next pick at 2.2. There you go. I did the electric. That's Trae Young, man. Trae Young, he's literally one of the. If you live on the East Coast, you get all the games in prime time. If because sometimes you draft these guys that are in the West Coast and you don't get to see them except on highlights, except if you're up all night like the geek. But Trae Young is just lights out. He has over delivered all expectations right from the go. He's gonna one day be one of the league leaders in scoring. He rebounds for an undersized guard. He's an Iron Man. He's the leader of his team. He's only getting better. Steve, what's your take on Trae Young? Would you take him this high?
I would. I mean, I like Simmons a little bit better than Trae. The only thing that concerns me with Trae is his turnovers, especially in a points league where you're losing points. And even in preseason, he's been turning the ball over 7 to 10 times a game. But yeah, the scoring, the rebounding, the assists, I mean, that offense is going to flow through him. So he's definitely top of the second round for sure.
So if we were in a league where they weren't counting turnovers, is just like he almost even a first rounder for you then?
He's close, yeah. If no turnover issues, then yeah, he's close.
I mean, once again, though, I'm going to chime in. This is a very, very off consensus ranking for Trae Young, who's popping up currently with an ADP closer to 25. So just in the third round, just at the top of the third round for Trae Young via ADP. So essentially, you like him more than Zion, more than Vucevic, some names, Butler.
Yeah, Trae Young.
Be a lot
Here
more
we go. In his rookie season where he was 20, he's 21 years old now. He was picked as basically going to be a bust. Him and Luka Doncic were basically traded for each other. Atlanta got I think an extra pick to take on Trae Young. 19 points, 3.7 rebounds, 8 assists, a full steal, even a quarter block. I mean, there's no reason to think that he's not going to best those numbers. I could see a situation where he's 23-10 easily. Sure, the turnovers are a bummer, but that's what's going to happen. And I actually expect the turnovers to get lower and to decrease as the year goes on, as he becomes more mature as an NBA player. Sure, it will still plague him. LeBron was a big turnover guy early in his career. And again, not making the comparison of Trae Young to LeBron, but this is a future first round fantasy pick. I would get ahead of it. I believe he played. I'm just looking at his log. Last year, he played in 81 games. He was an Iron Man at age 19 when he got drafted. So I'm all in on Trae Young, man, at the turn.
There it is. I could see a few different ways of going, but gotta like Trae Young. There isn't a whole lot else going on that.
Look
team.
at this comment. Look at this comment. Someone throwing up a pleasure head.
Yes.
All right. Nice. Yeah, so not much else to say there. Our 2.3 is this is Steve alluded to this before. It's our guy Ben Simmons. There he is. Raised it.
Now, I hear that Ben Simmons is practicing his 3-pointer.
And
that he will hit one. He hit one in an actual game.
In a game, he hit one the other day.
Okay, add some context to that, Steve, though. It was like at the buzzer. Nobody was guarding him.
No, there was no one within 10 feet of him. But
in fairness, it's more than I've ever done in or out of a game. Brick.
I mean, yeah.
Brick.
Yeah. Ben Simmons, it's kind of, he's been labeled a little bit more of a bust, but for fantasy, he's going to do it all. I mean, he was going in the first round last year, so he probably disappointed his fantasy owners a little bit. You draft him, he's a great floor play. He's going to be out there. He's going to be facilitating the offense. They always want him to have the ball. In the playoffs, he looked a little lost, but what do you expect, Steve, from Ben Simmons? You had him a little higher up than I did. Talk about the reasons why.
Mostly just because how good the 76ers are probably going to be this year. I know I've been reading a lot about people thinking they're going to take the East, and I think it's definitely doable if they can stay healthy. But the reason I like him is, Embiid and his injury history, they're going to rest him for some games. They're going to play around with that lineup a little. They added Horford, which is only is going to help his assist because Horford is unbelievable mid-range that you could just pick and pop with all day. And when Embiid is out, he has absolutely monster games. And Embiid isn't going to play a lot. Isn't going to play all 82 games.
I would throw in a concern, though, similar to what you just said, for Ben Simmons. Taking him this high, my biggest concern is that team really is loaded with weapons. And so you do find that, just like in DFS, where, yeah, sure, on days when Embiid is going to be out or there's some sort of catalyst, that is Tobias Harris still on this team? Or Harris, what's his name? Toby?
Yeah, no, you got it. Yeah,
he's still there.
Yeah. There's just a lot of weapons on this team. So like, whereas you took, and this is just from an overall perspective, when you took Trae Young, it's kind of like, well, he's the only guy the offense will always flow through him. I don't think that you're going to get a guy here in Ben Simmons where the offense is locked in to flowing through him all the time, always. There's a lot of weapons. There's a lot of players that could take over a game on that team. So that would be, for me, the flag. If I had to throw up a red flag about this pick, that's it, because he doesn't score well.
It's a floor pick, geek. That's why you take Ben Simmons. Last year, people were taking him thinking he was going to be a top 5 finisher. Basically, what he gave you was 17 points, 8.5 rebounds, 8 assists. I mean, in category leagues, it's unbelievable. But even in points league, it's just a solid floor every single night. He played in all 80. He played in at least 80 games, or 79 games and 81 games. He's an Iron Man. I think once you've recalibrated your expectations for Ben Simmons, he is probably the best pick in the second round for floor. He's not going to finish as a top 10 asset, but he's sure to finish as a top 20.
That's fair. And his ADP is right here at 15 overall. So you're right alongside ADP for Simmons. There's nothing off about it. All good. But yes, there's definitely, this is not a guy that I would be looking at and expecting a sort of a big game every single day, but yes, floor. And then when, like Steve, what you said, when Embiid is out or some catalyst where it's going to force more action to his hand, I think that's where you're going to have your best. That's when you got to kind of have those big games out of him. But other than that, I think he'll be, I agree with you, a floor piece more than a ceiling guy.
Yeah, 2.4. We're going to go with Mr. New York, Mr. Kemba Walker, and I say that because he's from New York. One of my favorite players in the NBA, newly traded or signed to the Boston Celtics, I should say. This is a controversial pick, and I'll tell you why. A lot of time, I mean, look what happened to Gordon Hayward when he came over to the Celtics. There's a lot of mouths to feed over there. I'm imagining Steve probably smartly disagrees with me here. I just think that Kemba is such a special player that he will return mid-second round value, and they are going to love him in Boston Garden. This guy is Mr. Big Time. He's Mr. Big Shot. He doesn't mind the pressure. Steve, are you cool with with middle of the second round Kemba Walker?
I'm a little bit lower on him than you are, but if you get like mid-second to later second, I'd be all over him. The only reason I'm a little lower on him is it looks like Tatum is making all the things I've read is he's going to be making a huge jump this year. He's been working with Kobe all off season, and Marcus Smart has also been playing really well in the preseason. People are raving about him. So I don't know if they're going to play them on the floor at the same time, the way they kind of staggered Smart depending on who was there. But I mean, the offense is going to flow through him, and between him and Tatum, they're going to be the highest usage guys on the Celtics for sure.
We got a message here, a comment from my man Rob Jackson, another basketball junkie, saying, way to go, my friend. So he's watching along, loving the podcast. Great take right there on Kemba Walker. Kevin, you remember the days not too long ago, Kemba Walker just crushing it, and winning the whole NCAA tournament. He kind of got lost in Charlotte over there. From a DFS perspective, is Kemba a guy that you normally went to?
No. Kemba is one of those guys that that's what concerns me about this pick. Kemba should not be lost in Charlotte because there's no one else really there that commands the basketball.
I meant more of a media perspective. His numbers were off the chart. Yeah,
but his numbers were great. This past year, he was better than. He's not as consistent, but he was very up and down. So he was always priced as an elite player. His production was a little more up and down than what I normally like. Although this past year definitely was an improvement over previous years for whatever reason, because Kemba Walker was a big kind of guy that sometimes only gives you 20 points or 23, and you're like, what the fuck happened here? So
yeah, but he's also a guy that can go off for a 50-point game. I mean, he is literally one of the elite scoring weapons in the NBA. If you take a look at his numbers from last year, and I know he was the guy on a bad team, but he was 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He's competent in the steal department with 1.2. I don't think his numbers will be that far off from there. In fact, if his scoring suffers, he's an elite passer as well. They signed him to big bucks, man. Kemba Walker is going to get all the minutes he can stomach, and he doesn't miss ball games. The last 2 years, he's missed a total of like 2 games. He's an Iron Man. He went to Boston because he had his choice to go many places. He could have gone to the Lakers. He chose Boston. He could have gone to Toronto. This is where he wants to be. He is going to light it up over there.
Is Terry Rozier still on the Celtics?
No. Terry Rozier. Yeah, he's on chart.
They switched spots. Okay, well that's
more or less.
Okay, well that's a plus. Yeah. All right, so again, not having a Rozier there to threaten his minutes, because with Kyrie Irving, to me he was disappointing in Boston. And so when you're slotting another guy into the same spot, now that had to do with Kyrie's injuries and a lot of other things that happen over there. But yeah, with no Rozier to steal his thunder, I like it.
Now, Steve, you said that you had you had Kemba a little lower. Just tell me one or two players you would have taken over him.
Let me look at this. I like De'Aaron Fox a little bit here, right in that
he's
range.
coming up in our rankings. Spoiler alert.
And Vooch. I'd take Vooch over him probably.
Okay, that's fair. But moving on, I mean, I was just curious because seeing where you're going. I mean, the center position in Geek, as we talked about, is just so valuable. Especially this year, it really does drop off after the second round. And one of your favorite players, Geek, Mr. Rudy Gobert,
Rudy Gobert. Gotta love
weighing
him.
in at 2.5. There he is with the mic drop. I mean, an elite defensive player. He'll day in and day out, he never disappoints. He doesn't have the upside you'd think he would from a fantasy perspective, but in a very thin world of center, he's still going to get you 15 and 13 with 2.5 blocks. I don't think those numbers will fluctuate that much. A minute ago, Steve said that he likes Vooch a little bit, but talk a little bit, Steve, first about Rudy G, the French eraser.
He's a beast on defense. I'm wanting to see how him and Conley play together, because Conley is like a huge underrated addition to that Jazz team that no one is talking about, and I think they're going to be a problem in the West this year. But I think it elevates his game but takes a little bit of usage away at the same time. So it's going to be more of an efficiency thing once they get rolling. But yeah, I mean, he's one of the top centers for sure, and he shouldn't slide past the middle of the second round.
Geek, DFS perspective, what is the Rudy Gobert doesn't rack up a ton of fantasy points, but how is his pricing? Is he more like one of those name guys at this point, or is he priced commensurate with his production in DFS?
No, he's usually, I don't want to say he's a bargain basement center, but he'll be priced like a little bit above someone like a DeAndre Ayton, and he'll come in below somebody like Vucevic. So that's why I'm a little surprised to see him ahead of a Vucevic, because generally Vucevic will be priced more expensive. But what you get from Gobert is, because he's not a scorer, he's actually projected to score about the same amount of points as he is projected for rebounds this year. Like, he is a rebounding machine. He gets assists and he gets steals and blocks and all that. And if you actually add up all of those numbers, they actually project out more. And let me see what his actual stats were last year. But
he was a 15 and 13 guy. Basically 15 points, 13 rebounds. He's not a zero in the assist department. He still passes out of the post a little bit. He gets you about a steal and 2.5 blocks. So more or less, it's actually closer to 16 and 13 is really his numbers. So
yeah, there is.
He's not
and we like that because that's a very consistent stat. When you're talking about rebounds, guys who love to go after the basketball, who go for rebounds, it's very predictable, but also it's very consistent. A scorer, sometimes their shot is off. But a rebounder, it's pretty rare that a rebounder or a shot blocker, his rebound skill is off. So that's pretty nice. I think you'll get consistency out of this guy.
He's a glass cleaner. Yeah, and that's, again, he's fantasy basketball. Yes, you want the upside guys, but it's very important, and we should probably learn this lesson for football as well. Get those safe floor guys that don't miss games, that could just literally, you don't need the 60 fantasy point score. It's nice to have them, but unless you have a top 3 or 4 pick, you may not get it. You want to get 40 fantasy points in points leagues from 2 or 3 guys right off the bat, put in that base, and then find some gold at the end of drafts. Steve, you have a similar philosophy or a different philosophy when it comes to drafting season long?
It depends on how the draft goes for me and what positions I'm drafting. What would I get in the first round? Like, if I get a center in the first round, like a cat, I'm happy with that, and I'm going to try to go guards and stuff from there on. So it goes draft to draft, but I agree with what you guys are saying, that he's probably your like floor center for the second round, but he's a good one to have for sure.
Now coming in at 2.6 or back to back. Geek, you talked about him. There he is, right there. Yep. So I have him at 2.6. Vucevic Well, he's in Orlando. I'm in Jacksonville. He's definitely a favorite around here. The fans love him. Now, the reason, Geek and Steve, the reason I put him a little bit lower was he had a career year last year. I don't want to buy on that career year. Now, is it possible he could reach those numbers again? But we have a large enough sample of this guy to know that I even think this might be a little high for him. I would love to get him on the 2-3 turn. Obviously, that's not going to happen. Do you have his ADP there?
Wait, I just had it up and I jumped over to his stats because I actually wanted to, but he's right here in the ADP as well. So
but he's higher in the ADP in this, but I think that he's being a little overdrafted based on recency bias and his last year just blow up. Now, the player that I compare him to, not from
Vuk is currently 21st ADP, below a few spots after Gobert and actually even below Pascal Siakam. So he's a little lower than this. This is a little higher than his current ADP. Over here, at least the one I'm looking at, which could be different from, there's a few.
Yeah, and again, we have him here because he is an elite player. He's a center. We're pushing him up. We love centers. His last year stats of 21 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, which is great, and then a block and a steal. I actually have him regressing slightly, a couple, just a point and a rebound based on those numbers, but I don't want to pay for that career year. I could see him going even earlier than this, but I certainly wanted to take Gobert ahead of him for that nice floor. The player I was going to compare him to, not stylistically, but you remember that year Chris Middleton went nuts? And Chris Middleton then was starting to get drafted the following year in the second round, and then he didn't really meet his ADP. I'm a little worried that Vooch could fall into this category. What you like him a lot, Steve? Talk about Nikola Vucevic a little bit.
I like him, like you said. He had a career year, so he'll probably regress a little bit. I agree with you on that. But the big thing is, the Magic didn't really add anybody that's going to boost their offense really at all in the offseason. Isaac's probably going to take a step forward. I know they got Fultz, but I'm still not sold on him being back. So
that's all hope. It's
going to be a lot of him and Aaron Gordon on the offensive end for the Magic.
To cover the career year, just to be clear on exactly what that means, because I think that's important to understand the difference. This guy had he had a couple seasons where he approached 800 rebounds in a year. Last season, 961. He had a couple seasons where he averaged a little over 180 assists. Last year, he had 300 assists. Again, so his block numbers up massively. His steal numbers all up about 30% from his average. So, and his points, he had been scoring. Again, he had another good year in 2014. But to go from 1,000, 1,200, 1,000, 900, 1,000, 1,100 to 1,600 fantasy points scored, not fantasy points, total points scored. When you say a career year, it really, really was a career year where all of his numbers seem to be up about 30% across the board, which I don't know how that's just either. I don't know what was wrong. The rest of his career, because the guy's been around for 5 years or 6 years already, or was last year the anomaly? Or is this the new normal?
The guy's been around since 2011, and if you look at his games played, it's a little up and down. He has had some injuries. Listen, he's a big man. He's going to have injuries. Now, Vooch used to be the best value in all of season long. You'd get him in the third round, the late third round, and you'd be like, wow, I'm set right now. I'm rocking. But now you're paying for him. Now you're relying on him as one of your guys. So I do have him ranked there, but just buyer beware. Based on his center eligibility, I have him there. But there's some centers, later on in the draft that if you do want to pass on him, I certainly understand.
Yeah, Gobert's your floor guy. Vooch is your ceiling guy. In the second round.
Are you feeling good if you pick up Vuk there? Are you feeling good about are you just feeling? Do you feel a little nauseous doing it? Or are you feeling good about that pick?
I'm a little goosey if I do it, but I'm doing it with just because it hasn't been done before. It's I'm trying to think of the fantasy football equivalent is taking the player. It's like drafting it's not, I was going to say Damian Williams, but that's not exactly it because that was literally all projection. But a guy that just traditionally was a 4th round pick, and now all of a sudden he's up with the big boys.
Let me think on that. Let me think on who that was this year.
I mean, this year it would be like taking like a Chris Godwin in the second round of fantasy football drafts.
Well, I was almost thinking it's like taking Mike
Chris-
Evans in the second round, where you just
well,
kind of
he's always a second round guy,
Yeah,
He was, but I'm saying, it's more like, it was more like taking a Chris Carson in the second round.
Okay,
a
that's
guy
fair.
that you love to get him in the fourth. That's what Vucevic is now. He's playing with the big boys. So yeah, we'll move on. 2.8. We're making some good progress. Now I've heard some buzz about this player being a first round pick, and that is
Please be Zion. Please be Zion. Please be Zion.
No, Jrue
Damn it.
Holiday. There he is, Mr. Jrue
Damn it.
Holiday. Yeah, Jrue Holiday. It's interesting. He's going to be a great fantasy player. There's a possibility he goes anywhere in the second round. He could end up in the late first round in some expert drafts. I mean, he is going to be running that high octane offense over there. It's Jrue Holiday has been like a trendy player. I have depressed him down a little bit just to kind of slow the roll. But Steve, what have you been hearing about Jrue Holiday? Are you comfortable taking him now as an elite player as the basis of your fantasy team?
No, honestly. I think he's priced right about where he should be, like middle to later second round, just because the Pelicans have added so many more pieces. I mean, you've seen Zion in the preseason. He looks like an absolute beast. He's moving up my rankings just watching him play.
We're going to talk about Zion at the end, so hold that part of the conversation. But so where do you you've seen Jrue? I've seen Jrue in some expert leagues go at the 12-13 turn. I know that seems a little aggressive, but where would you slot him here? I mean, are you comfortable at this ADP? Like, what kind of a season do you see Jrue Holiday having? I mean, in my rankings, originally with my projections, I had him come out at number 15 overall. I had to move him down because I just thought it was too aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because before it was mostly him and AD, and then last year when AD was pitching his fit with the Pelicans, it was the Jrue show pretty much. Now you got Ingram's there, Lonzo's there, Zion has been dominating the usage so far. I mean, I just don't think he's going to have that elite usage that he did last year. But I mean, he's as solid as they come, and I don't think they'll need to rely on him as much offensively this year as they did last year. And then because he's a shutdown defender, so I think they're going to want him to focus on that more and let the young guys kind of go at it on offense.
He's a 21.5 rebound, 7 assist guy last year. Give me your projection for his numbers this year. Like, where do you see them going from 25 and 7?
I'd say he's probably around like 17, 18 points a game. And then the rebounds and assists are probably going to be similar, maybe a little bit less. I'm interested to see how they use Lonzo and him at the point guard position, who takes the ball up and stuff like that. So it's honestly going to be, I'm going to have to see what happens early in the season to see how they're using them. But I think just with all those additional pieces they have now, he won't be needed as much on offense as they needed him last year.
Yeah, it's interesting, Geek. I have a quite a different view, but I think that Steve's view is what a lot of smart people are saying. I think that as the leader, the veteran leader on this team, he's going to take control of the reins and step on the gas and show the young bucks how it's done. I mean, all the players that they've acquired, Lonzo, Ingram, and now Zion. The other two aforementioned, they've kind of sputtered out where they were early on with the Lakers, and this is a fresh start for them. I think Jrue Holiday is going to show them the way. He's a killer, man, and I fully expect him to be the lead dog, especially early on.
Listen, Jrue Holiday, whenever AD was out, is an auto play, right? Especially because the difference in his scoring when someone like AD was playing and somebody like AD was not playing was so massive, and the salary never caught up with it. So he was an auto play every time AD was out. If the team would have been exactly the same as it was last year and they didn't add all of those pieces, I'd be all over this Jrue Holiday pick in this spot. But, Mutt, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of risk here. Number one, because Lonnie Ballsack, he's not there to be just a pretty face. He's not there to sell big baller brand sneakers. He's there to run the point. And that's going to take the ball out of Jrue. Like Holiday was running the point for this team for a lot of it. Like there's just nobody else. So a lot of that scoring, a lot of that usage is going to go now to Lonzo. It's gonna, I don't think Zion is a big effect, other than some of that scoring is going to go to Zion. Some of that ball handling is going to Lonzo. Ingram, I think, is a neutral piece, whatever. But yes, I'm concerned about him in this spot because there's a lot of hopeful speculation going on here, and I don't like hopeful speculation in the second round. What we're hopefully speculating with this ranking is that Jrue's role is going to be the same. He's going to be the man. I'm the old guy, and you motherfuckers going to listen to me, and I'm going to run.
But I think that there's a healthy mix of being the guy and then passing it down to the young guys, showing them the way it's done. This team is not. Nobody really knows. I'm guessing. A lot of people say, "Oh, they're rebuilding." Other people are like, "No, they're trying to make the playoffs this year." I think that the latter. I think that they're trying to make the playoffs this year, and if they want to do that, yes, Zion looked great in the preseason. Obviously we all want to see it in the regular season, but those other two guys that they got, they have a lot to prove in order to see if they're going to be real NBA players.
I think Lonzo Ball is an NBA player. Can he shoot? No, but he's an NBA point guard. Right, he can handle the basketball. I did see him practicing his jump shot. I saw him hitting some threes in some film. But I mean, for the most part, he's going to handle the basketball. So some of those assists are going to go away from Jrue Holiday, is what I'm saying. I love him as a player, but am I taking him ahead of DeAndre Ayton?
We'll get there.
Am I taking him ahead of the new shiny toy, Zion Williamson? He's going to be taking the NBA by storm.
You like Zion as a second round pick. All right, that'll be interesting. Yeah. I mean, let's talk about our next guy on the list. This man right here, who's flexing it all right there. That is my friend Donovan Mitchell. Mitchell, he comes in at we have him ranked right now at pick 2.8. An amazing rookie year. Came back with a little bit of a sophomore slump by, the standards that people thought that he was ready to just take over the league. I still like Donovan Mitchell a lot. I think that, he may even fall to the third round in some drafts, but I think this is a year where he puts more of it together. He still has room to grow. I love getting Donovan Mitchell. If I'm picking it like pick 4 and I took a guard, oh my God, am I thrilled to get Donovan Mitchell right here. What do you think about Donovan Mitchell in the second round, Steve?
I like him at this spot. I mean, I remember I was seeing him getting drafted in the first round last year in some drafts. Yep. I talked about it a little bit earlier too. The addition of Conley is big to that Jazz team because he is so underrated. I think he's really going to elevate the play of those guys. And plus, he won't have to worry about handling the ball as much because, I mean, he's not really a true point guard. He's more of a 2 guard, and he really excels there. And, I mean, I think he can have pretty close to what he did his rookie year this year, and the Jazz are going to be really, really good. So, I mean, sky's the limit for him here, especially at the end of the second round.
Yeah, I think he's going in expert drafts, and his ADP is like the end of the third round, or middle of the third round. You're aggressive if you're drafting him here. But I mean, 23 points last year, 4 and 4 on the other counting stats, a steal and a half. Even gives you half a block, but the 2.5 threes a game, I think that he's going to have even closer to 3.5 threes a game, and for the exact reason that you've said twice already, that Mike Conley is a basketball player that other players like playing with because they get better. Now, we've all played pickup basketball. There was always that one guy that you were like, yeah, I want to play with him because every time I play with him, even though I can't shoot, I get open looks. Every time I have he just drives in and kicks it out. And that's what Mike Conley is. He takes the pressure off other players. He makes other guys better, and he still gets his. So we agree. We like Donovan Mitchell here.
Yeah, and I'm down with Mitchell here as well. I think he's an incredible talent, and unlike the situation with Jrue, where I think having those other pieces potentially negatively affects his usage a little bit, Conley is the opposite of a ball hog. So yes, I totally agree with your assessment there. And for that reason, I'm not bothered by the addition of a Conley, even though I will say that Mitchell's best games last year and some of those statistics that you're looking at right now came with him essentially running the point when I believe it was Rubio that was out
Yeah.
for the team for a while. Was that who it was?
Rubio,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
Rubio's not there anymore, though.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. So, but his best games, his lock-in Donovan Mitchell, we're playing him tonight. The period of time where his DFS salary rose up from its usual, 7 to 8K perch all the way up to the 10K range, the super elite, for the purposes of draft, and I do use salary a lot to determine my
well,
for
there's
players.
a correlation
I do.
there. There is a
I'm
correlation
sorry,
there.
I do. Right, there is a correlation, and I do the same thing for football because people forget. But I do use that, and when he got to that elite status is when there was an injury. But I think this Conley addition will be more helpful for him than what last year was. So I think his overall outlook for this season should be just as good or even a smidge better than what he showed last year, even without necessarily having an injury to the point guard.
Okay, so the next couple we're going to zip through just so we can get to keep this podcast under 1 hour. But coming at the next spot, Pascal Siakam. I love this guy, man. I love him there.
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay, all right. So
he's an absolute steal at his ADP right now.
Correct. So
and no one's talking about him. I don't know why.
No one. Okay. See, I'm happy Steve agrees with me. This because he's going in the 3rd round of drafts. Nobody's taking him in the 2nd round, and oh my God, I'm going to be all over him. Steve, what number are you drafting in our DFS Army Coaches Challenge draft? I have to know this.
I haven't even looked actually. So
oh my God, this guy's
I can't give that out.
All right. Well,
let me give you the Yahoo ADP specifically so you can feel comfortable, because yes, there is a mutual and agreed upon love for Siakam here. He's showing up number 30 on Yahoo, so he's not even. You won't even be able to find him. Like when you're picking, number 21 or wherever this is.
But me and Steve are going to be fighting for him now, though.
All you have to worry about is Steve, and where's he picking? You're like, oh fuck.
That's what I'm
round 3.
Well,
like if you got the first pick in round 3 and the last pick in round 2, or let's say your pick in round 2 is like number 10, and then the comeback, you better take him at number 10 in round 2. But if you got like number 11 or 12, you could probably. Yeah, I think I'm taking him. Yeah, 10, 11, 12. But there is that chance that he might be hanging out there for the comeback at like 3.2, 3.3. He might be there unless Steve is there.
Well, you know what it is that he defies a rule. Let's say you're Steve's notable team, right? Yeah, so he's picking 11, so he may not get him. Siakam defies a rule that we always use in Football Geek. We always say the waiver wire guy that comes out of nowhere the year before, and then all of a sudden is a 2nd round pick the year after, is a stay away. That rule does not apply for basketball.
Nope.
I would say
basketball,
the opposite, very much the opposite
correct.
in basketball.
Absolutely. So Siakam was a guy pulled off the waiver wire in one of my most important leagues accidentally. I was like, let me try this guy. Honestly, I didn't know much about him at the time. And I'm more, just like I am in football with season long basketball, I really try to find these little gems. I accidentally found him. I feel ashamed to admit that on a live stream, but it's true. But didn't take long for me to get cozied up to Pascal Siakam. And his numbers last year of like 17, let's see, he hit 17, 7, and 3. I mean, he's going to crush those numbers. I have him more 21.8 rebound, 5 assists. Right. He is now the guy. So, right, Steve, do you think, Kyle Lowry's on Toronto this year, but I'm not too worried about him. I think Siakam is the man.
Lowry's still hurt. He's still banged up too.
Okay.
From what I've seen, I think he might be out a few weeks, and that just makes him that even better. I mean, I don't understand how no one is talking about him. Kawhi's gone from Toronto, and this dude still won Most Improved Player of the Year, and no one's talking about him. If he doesn't average at least 20 points a game, like just points, I'll be shocked.
I would, and what you just said, I would think that my sneaky play is that he'll average closer to 27 points per game in the first month of the season, and then maybe it catches on. But I could see a situation where on the player rater geek that Pascal Siakam is player number 1 overall for at least the first 2 weeks of the season. I wouldn't be shocked if that happens.
I mean, he had some excellent runs last year. I think he was a little bit less steady in terms of his consistency than maybe, some of the other names that even might still be available. So I think a little bit of what's going on here is there's a little bit of hope for improvement, but there's a lot of room for improvement because, again, just for the reason you said, this guy kind of came out of nowhere, wasn't initially suspected to be a focal point of his team. And what's the deal with Serge Ibaka? I mean, is he still is he still there? He seemed to be the guy that if Ibaka was doing well, Siakam would have his bad game. Those two seem to be negatively correlated.
Steve, you want to take that one?
Yeah, they are. They do negatively correlate, but I don't think Ibaka is going to be starting for them. I think he'll be coming off the bench. I don't think they'll be on the floor much together. Darnell Nurse isn't a bad coach, so I think he sees that too. So, I mean, if he staggers their minutes and puts him on the floor with Lowry, Gasol, those guys, I mean, he's going to crush this year. He's absolutely going to crush.
Yeah, Serge Ibaka, one of my favorite nicknames in his peak when he was an elite defender. They called they called him the Surge Protector.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah,
that works.
No, that's great analysis, Steve. And Nick Nurse is one of the best coaches in the NBA. And
what did I call him? Darnell? I don't know why I called him Darnell.
No, I didn't even hear you say that. I just heard Nurse. Yep. No, he is one of the best coaches. So moving on. So we're going to speed through, like we said, Kyrie Irving at 2.10. Now, he's going to go before this. There's no question in my mind that Kyrie Irving, just on name brand alone, in most casual leagues, is going to go before pick 2.10. But now over at the Brooklyn Nets, I mean, he didn't work out for him great, but he always gets his numbers. Look at that crossover right there in Dish. As long as he stays healthy and he buys in, which, he's all in Brooklyn now, I don't see a reason why Kyrie Irving won't smash his ADP. He's probably going to end up being a first-round value. It's just that you don't need to take him in the first round. So any point in the second round, I'm pretty good with Kyrie Irving. And again, it's going to be one of these guys that a lot of people either pass on or they love him. He's a love him or hate him guy. There's definitely going to be a Nets fan in your draft because the Nets are now a buzzy team. So Kyrie Irving, if he falls to me at 2.10, I'm all in. What do you think, Steve?
I mean, I hate him personally as a player because I am a diehard Celtics fan. So I hate who he is as a person, but KD's not playing this year. They're going to revolve around him on offense. I mean, you get him at the end of the second round, it's a steal. I just hate him as a person.
Geek, tell Steve though that who they are as people. I mean, we would draft Saddam Hussein, and if he could get us fantasy points. I mean, does Steve understand that?
Steve must know that I will defend Tyreek Hill beating his children.
Which, by the way, people close to the team said that was all BS.
I told you that was bullshit. Listen, I told you that was bullshit when I read the story, but that wasn't my point. Even if he did beat his children, I don't give a fuck. Switch your kid all you want. You can play for my fantasy team. I just want you to score fantasy points and make me the cream for my pocket. I don't give a fuck. Now, if he kicks a woman when she's on the floor, that's too far for me. That's too far.
That's a bridge too far.
Kareem Hunt took it too far. Ray Rice, he took it too far for me. But if you switch your kids because that's your way of disciplining them,
do we need to send Steve? Do we need to send child services over to the Geeks house?
No. I'm not saying I do that. I'm just saying I'm judge not lest ye be judged. Okay, I don't want to judge. Don't judge me. I won't judge you. Don't hit a woman, but don't punch your kid in the. All right, I don't believe he did anything. Whatever. I don't believe he did it.
Let's not go there. All right, so moving on. So
and by the way, what the fuck did Irving did? Leave Boston? Did he beat his children? No. But what he does do. Wait, let me talk about this guy for a second. I know we have a minute. He's hurt all the time. Now you're telling me that Kyrie Irving is going to not be hurt, and he was only hurt because he didn't want to play the fucking Celtics. I don't believe you. So I'm just letting you know that this motherfucker is always hurt, and that bothers me, right? He's always hurt 2 years in a row. Like for the Celtics, multiple years, he's always getting hurt. How do I know? Because Terry Rozier night was a very common thing in DFS. So this guy gets hurt a lot. Yep. And back when he was with LeBron, he also got hurt a lot. So you know what? Fuck him and his injuries and his child beating ways.
And I think I think that's priced into his ADP though. Kyrie Irving last year when he was on the floor was fantastic. He's a 24, 5, and 7 guy. I mean, with a steal and a half a block even. I expect those numbers to go up as the main guy in Brooklyn, especially before KD even gets back. I just think that you're getting a end of the first round player at an end of the second round price based on all of those yellow flags that you outlined.
This is a fair, to be clear, this is where you have him at that 2.10. That's a fair spot for him, and quite a bit below his Yahoo ADP, right in line with his ESPN ADP. So perfectly appropriate pricing for this guy, and I think that I agree that the injury risk is priced in a little bit here.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah. I mean, he could be, you're not surprised if he finished top 5 overall. All right. De'Aaron Fox. This is going to get Steve excited over there. I can tell already. The juices are flowing. De'Aaron Fox is going to be a trendy pick. His ADP is a little bit lower than where we have him, but we love him over here. There he is. There's De'Aaron Fox.
He's a stud.
Such a stud. I mean, I'll let you go first, Steve, and then I'll chime in. Talk a little bit about where you said you would have him even a little higher than this.
Yeah, I mean, I think based on like stuff what Geek was saying with Kyrie, I'd probably take him ahead of Kyrie, just because I mean he plays a lot, he's fast. The Kings play fast basketball that equals fantasy points. So I mean, and he's running the point, and he just keeps getting better and better every year, and he's been out to make the Lakers look bad for taking Lonzo ahead of him, and he just keeps doing it. I think he's going to take another leap forward this year.
Yeah, the chip on the shoulder is always a good thing. Just to put a cherry on top of what Steve said there, his rookie year, he was a 12, 2, and 4 guy, improved greatly to a 17-point, 4 rebounds, and 8 assists. I'm projecting him to be a 20 and 10 guy. I know that's a little bit of an aggressive ranking, but I could see easily him being 20 points, 5 rebounds, 10 assists, almost 2 steels, and maybe
steals are a big thing with him too.
Yeah. Now, I mean, one question for you about this pick. So let me, because I always have to have some sort of negative spin on everything.
I like it. That's what this debate is about.
All right. So
grounded.
Do the Kings have to not suck in order for this guy to really reach his peak? In other words, we saw a lot last season where the Kings were kind of just a shit team. And you had a lot of the whole team being benched in the second half, kind of shenanigans going on. And a lot of situations where, for example, you'd play De'Aaron Fox, and then, again, some of these shenanigans would go on, and next thing you know, they're like, what happened to De'Aaron Fox? They're like, they benched the whole fucking team. Or they brought out some other group of turds, and, the playing time was a little sketchy. And part of that seemed to have to do with the fact that the team was so bad that the coaching staff just kind of was willing to do things like that. Just, I'm benching the whole thing. Very much like last year, where you see weird shit going on with their rotations, where they weren't playing the best guy for a lot of minutes because they were just doing some weird things.
De'Aaron Fox is launched into superstar status. He's in every commercial in that region now. The fans that pay are going to want to see him play. That does play into it. And he's a warrior. Like, he is a competitor. Not a warrior. He's a king, obviously, I'm saying. But he wants to be out there 35 minutes a night. He might, even if he's the great player, bad team type of thing, I think the Kings are going to compete. They're going to be one of those fun teams to watch this year on League Pass. So I certainly... I've looked at his game log as you were saying that, and I saw that happened. I would take him in the second round, no problem. But yeah, I mean, when you have these kooky situations and these coaches, things could always go sideways. In the interest of time, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying, on DFS side, you feel the burn when you pay up, $7,500 for De'Aaron Fox, or $7K, and you kind of could have gotten somebody else who was also pretty good, like a Trae Young, who didn't get benched in the second half for weird, inexplicable reasons that had nothing to do with how he was playing. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Finally, rounding out our second round is Mr. DeMar DeRozan, who traded away from Toronto for Kawhi Leonard on the Spurs. I avoided him actively last year, and I regretted it. I mean, he put up some monster numbers. He's probably gonna fall to the third round in a lot of drafts. If I'm picking on the turn, I'm taking him there. He's just, you can see a theme here. I like old reliable when it comes to fantasy basketball. The teams where I've won championships with are the teams where I just pick the steady, proven vets. The teams that I in the past haven't done well with is when I projected and took these guys that were buzzy, flashy guys and overpaid for them. I love DeMar DeRozan as a basketball player. He's my type of guy as a basketball player. Boring, gets the job done, kind of, workman status, which is perfect for the Spurs, right, Steve?
Yeah, he fits in that Kawhi role pretty well. I mean, he hustles on defense. He does what Pop likes. And if you do what Pop likes, you're going to play, and you're going to play a ton. And, I mean, he's probably going to be – it's going to be him and Aldridge as their main two offensive guys. And then I think they'll even get a boost when Murray gets back to full health too, because he's a stud at point guard as well. Just health has always been an issue with him. But, yeah, I mean, end of the second round, he's a great pick. And I'm kind of upset you said that.
Yeah, he's not making it back to you in the third. Go ahead.
I mean, this is way off of his ADP. Again, if you guys in this Yahoo League want to take DeMar DeRozan at the end of the second round, you're gonna have to do a lot of. You're gonna carpal tunnel your finger scrolling down to ADP number 40 or 43 on Yahoo, like a full. You're gonna have to scroll past a full 20 plus players to find DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, this is how I would draft. Now, am I jumping ADP here? Huge, yes, but he's not coming back to me. Steve? If I'm picking at the 2-3 turn because I picked number 1 overall, there's no way he's making it back to me.
You're not getting him, no.
You would have to take him. You would have to take him. That last pick right here. You'd have to take him here or the 3-1 if you want.
Yeah,
him
I mean it's the same thing.
But let's say you're picking in the middle. There's a chance that you can almost get him round. I mean, literally in round 4 here. We're talking about potentially you're taking this guy in round 3, essentially the beginning of round 3.
Yeah,
he might still be there in round 4. So, much like the Jets,
not the end of it.
Probably not the end of round 4, but he could be there at the end of round 3. He could be there 12 picks later.
To make a football comparison, it was the Chris Godwin thing. When you and I talked about how much we love Chris Godwin, which is obviously has paid off in tenfold. And we said, okay, he's not really a second round guy, so I'm not going to take him in the second round. I'm picking at 2.10. And then all of a sudden he's gone at 3.1. It's like, shit. You could have had him. Yeah, whoops. Just take the guy you want when you want him.
Did it make it worse that you took like Todd Gurley at 2.10?
Fuck. Ridiculous. And I again, DeMar DeRozan is not that guy. He's not like the young breakout guy that's gonna basically be the overall number 1 player. But he's very underrated for fantasy because he's quote boring. But he's just gonna put up these monster numbers, and he will finish at second round. I mean, if you want to play chicken, if in your typical casual league, you could probably wait a little bit. But yeah, that rounds out our second round. Just quick because we want to stay on.
Yeah, who are some of the names that the notable omissions? There we go. Some names that you were thinking about but didn't quite make it here. And where's Zion?
Zion.
I mean, Iron Lion, man.
I mean, he's going to go because just on name value alone, but I'm probably not touching him until the end of the third round or any time in the third round is fine, I guess, if you really want to take him. But right now his ADP, if you want to talk Zion we'll just go back to that for a second. Zion's ADP in NFBKC, which is the pros, is 26, so it's right at 3.2. And in Yahoo, it's 36, so he is moving on up. But the guys that I think could be second-round picks, Devin Booker, who is the elite only scoring option there. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in the second round. The other guys, I like them better. Paul George won't be back until the first week in November, so I don't think he deserves to be a second-round pick. Ayton has a great case to be a second-round pick, but probably will be more of a 2-3 turn sort of guy. Right, I feel the same way you did. You shook your head, Steve.
He's and the Suns are going to suck again.
Yeah, exactly. And what do you say to? I put Kawhi Leonard's ADP up there. He's going 10th overall, 12th in Yahoo leagues. DFS Army, our ranking, we have him at 25. Where would you take Kawhi Leonard, Steve?
Probably around the 2-3 turn, if he's still there, or somewhere around there. Yeah.
So how do you explain?
Especially without George, the first until November. I mean, that's going to boost him big time. But once George comes back, it's going to hurt him. Plus,
Yeah, and
they
the
have
games missed.
Yeah, so plus, I mean, they're going to play Lou and Harrell a bunch together. Those guys, that's one of their centerpieces of their offense too, is pick and pop with those two guys off the bench. So I mean, he's not going to have the same usage this year as he did in Toronto.
Yeah, Geek.
He's
The
still
reason
elite, but
still elite, but he's going to be picking his spots. He's going to be load managed to death. I mean, the reason they acquired him was for the March-April run into May and June, obviously. I mean, that's what they're saving him for. Geek, are you surprised at all, or do you think? I mean, because he's in expert leagues, in high stakes leagues, he's going in the first round.
That's the part that surprises me. Why? It seems odd to me on a team with so many scorers that, and we know Kawhi is constantly rested, and he has some weird quirky shit where he just will take days off, like even more so than other players who are perfectly healthy. In a fantasy league where especially you have to decide at the beginning of the week if I'm going to roll this guy for the next 7 days, and there's like a great chance that he'll sit for 2 of those games, that screws you. So I don't understand how he's going that high in the premium leagues. I'm like, what are these people thinking? Now maybe
Well,
they got excited by this guy. I mean, like recency bias.
Answer.
What the hell is it?
Because in the NFBKC, like the high, you know, that NFBKC is the NFFC's basketball.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, they have huge benches. In most fantasy basketball leagues, you have anywhere from 3 to 5 bench spots. In the NFBK, they have 10.
But wait, don't you still have to make a decision at the beginning of the week, and then roll that guy the whole week?
Correct. So what you're going to do is you'll get a good idea of how they're going to use Kawhi. It's not going to be surprising. So again, I still think it's too high, but my guess is that they feel they could fill in where the need be. And, you know, but that's what I'm saying. Like in 4-game weeks, it's almost like a guarantee he's not going to play 4 games.
I'm sorry, but here, yes, but not at pick 12. Let me get a guy who's going to play every single day. So I don't get it, but I don't get that. I do like the Kawhi, you know, in the 3rd round component. It's fine, but again, there's risk here because this team has more scorers on it than Toronto, which was basically a team that just, you know, there were just 3 guys in Toronto. There seem to be more guys when Paul George comes back as well. Yeah. And of course, you know, Sweet Lou and Montrez and all those guys that kind of can score as well. I don't think it's going to be the same as what we saw in Toronto.
And then lastly, Chris Paul, you know, I put him in there. He's fallen way down draft boards. I kind of like him this year as the main guy in Oklahoma City. You know, he was good when he was, you know, getting the usage in Houston. I think he's a little bit underrated. You know, that we could save that for another podcast. But you brought up Zion a few times, Geek. His ADP in with the pros is right on the 2-3 turn. In Yahoo, it's a later 3rd. But you're saying on name value, he's going to go in the 2nd round, isn't he?
I mean, you're seeing, I think the ADP on Yahoo, if you're drafting on Yahoo, is what you should expect. So, no, I like that the sharp players like him because that makes me feel like I'm a little sharper for liking him and not the nutless monkey that you seem to think I am for liking the big name guy. But the guy is going to be a fucking beast. Have you seen him? Like, these guys come out of college. He's like Embid without the injury worries. I mean, what do you want? He's gonna be out there. He's gonna be rebounding like a maniac. He's gonna be.
I just feel like in the first half of the first season, he's gonna be more of like the glue guy for his team rather than the star.
No way. He's Zion, man. Every room this guy walks into, they all turn their head and go, "Oh shit, that's Zion." You know what I'm saying?
Like
he's gonna be better. If it were me, and I'm not, but if it were me, there's no way I'm taking. I'm probably closer to like pick 22. Some of these guards, I feel like I can get good guards. Like you mentioned Booker. There's so many Mitchell hanging around. There's a lot of guards that I can get in the 3rd round that are still really good.
There's something to be said for that.
Yeah. Who are these great centers I'm going to get after Zion's off the board? I got to take Draymond Green at that point. No, the Clint Capella, who's just all right. No, I'd rather have Zion.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up here. Is there anything that any other players, Steve, from ADP that you saw that are, before we sign off, that are going a little bit further down the board, you know, or rising up the board that you saw?
I just wanted to touch real quick on Chris Paul. If he stays in OKC, he's going to be a steal. It's just there's a lot of risk there that they trade him and he ends up being the third guy on some team. And at that 8 AP, I'm not really willing to risk it. But I mean, he keeps falling. I mean, if you can get him in like the 4th or 5th, like towards the end of the 5th round, I've seen in some mock drafts, why not? That's a
How
steal.
about it? Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm glad you emphasized that. Geek, you want to wrap us up?
That's it, guys. So let's conclude here the second edition of the season-long fantasy basketball Bold Calls podcast. Guys, if you're watching this, remember to like and subscribe to this channel if you want this kind of content. The Bold Calls Fantasy Basketball Podcast will continue weekly throughout the season, not just in the lead up, not just prepping you for your draft, but in season as well, talking about some players, talking about some pickups off the wire, talking about some sports gambling components, and even some DFS discussion will take place. So this will be a full season of fantasy basketball discussion. If you're not in a league, get in one. Call your friends. Play some fantasy basketball, man. It's fun. And you love fantasy football. That's why you know this channel. Just do it. Remember, we're brought to you by DFSArmy.com. If you want advice for anything fantasy sports related, that's where to go. Season Long Sez, Mutt are both in our Slack group answering questions. Mutt's in there breaking down every single slate for DFS point purposes, breaking news, all that important stuff that you can't get elsewhere. Sez is in there answering your season-long questions, NFL, fantasy basketball. You want to do fantasy golf, he's probably into that too. Who the fuck knows?
Hey,
And
one
we're
last
doing
question.
preseason.
Oh, nice.
We've been all over preseason.
Oh, preseason and NBA is going strong. And oh my gosh, look up if you're playing DFS preseason. Just look up at the top of your tournaments and look at all the DFS Army avatars first, second, third, fourth, fifth. It's ridiculous. I don't know. You have no shot at daily fantasy basketball without a site like ours. So you don't want to play it? Cool. But if you're watching this, you probably do play it. Set up DFS Army VIP. Use promo code GEEK, 20% off. Good to go.
All right, guys. So we'll be doing this again. Geek, thanks for hosting us. Always good talking to you. Mutt, good hanging with you, my man. And
thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, brother. Thanks. And I look forward to competing with you in the DFS Army Coaches Challenge.
Be a battle.
Yeah, this Saturday. It's going to be literally a room of sharks just cutting at each other. And before Mutt fully disappears, I don't know how that room just keeps getting darker and darker.
Yeah, it looks like it's about to rain.
It's nighttime. It's nighttime in Massachusetts.
He's in some sort of creepy cave over there. Yeah. I don't know what the hell is going on.
It's fall, so it gets dark at 5:30 now.
All right, and tweet at us if you want to make a contribution so Mutt can get a microphone. Okay, so we'll get him there. All right, guys. All right, man. Thanks, guys, and we'll till next time. And we'll see you on Wednesday for the DFS Army Geeks Vegas Lines podcast. Always a favorite of ours. So talk to you then.
Later, guys.
See ya.